Good morning, brush monkeys, and welcome back. This week we are wrapping up our look at the Frostgrave Witches box set with the White Witch, and this one's going to be a fun one to paint. I don't think I'm going to do anything with that lightning. I think I'm just going to leave it clear lightning, and I think it'll look good compared to the rest of her. I think that's going to look... maybe I'll give it a little blue glaze or something, but I think for the most part I think I'm going to leave it the way it is. But yeah, her skin is going to be fairly dark. I'm going with the Mocha Skin Triad from Army Painter Skin Tone set. Nightmare Black for her hair. We're going to do some really neat scroll work here. So I got the Micron pens out to do the calligraphy on there, and I think it's going to look really fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, and we'll come back and take a look at her. I made some progress, right? See you in a bit. Bye. Alright, brush monkeys, we're back, and we have her skin and hair done, and she looks pretty good. I'm really happy with how she turned out. So next up we're going to do her robes, and those are going to be, we're going to go over them with matte white with a fairly large brush, and then wash the whole thing with Army Painter Holy White speed paint, which is kind of a it's a very light gray. It's like the Apothecary White from Citadel, and it looks better over a white paint. I know that sounds counterintuitive, but it's really meant more of a shade wash for white. So that's what we're going to use it as. We're going to go over the whole thing with that, and I think that's going to look pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and go do her robes, and then we'll come back and see how they look. Alright, see you in a bit. Alright, so we made some more progress on our girl here. I've got the white base on and the Apothecary White on, and you can kind of see how that's kind of graded up. It's still wet, so I'm going to let that dry. But in the meantime, I've based the scroll with the Wraith Bone and done the dark wood on the scroll holder, the little roll that it's up on. And then I went ahead and did the lightning with Aethermatic Blue contrast paint. I think it's a little nice, really thin turquoise, so you still get that clearness of it, but it looks really nice and kind of magically blue. I kind of like how it turned out, and I think it adds a nice spot of color against the white of her outfit. So yeah, I think it looks like it's starting to puddle a little bit right here in her hand, so I'm trying to get that excess out of there. But yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to let the Holy White dry, and then I'm probably going to dry brush the whole thing with Praxetti White, just dry brush paint. And then I'll go in and do the her pouches, straps, belts, the bracers, her boots with I'm using Wolf Gray, but it's essentially the same color as the Gray Seer from Citadels for using contrast paints. I'm going to go over with that, and then those will be painted with Griff Charger Gray contrast paint, which is a nice thin kind of bluish gray. I think it's going to look really good. I think it's going to make a nice contrast against the outfit. So yeah, we're making progress on her. See you in a bit. Alright, brush monkey, so as you can see, we've got her dress all dry brushed, and it looks pretty spiff. It's a little hard to see on this camera because the camera tends to wash it out, but you can see it's all nice and gray in the crevices and white highlights and all that kind of stuff. Brings out all that definition. Looks really nice. You can also see I've got her scroll shade washed there, and it's all smoothed out on the front, so it's ready for those Micron pens to do their work. And I think up next we're going to go ahead and do the leathers and her bracers and what have you with the Wolf Gray and Griff Charger Gray. And then we'll come back and see how that looks. See you soon. Bye. Alright, so we got her leathers done in the Griff Charger Gray, and that does make a nice little kind of bluish gray contrast to the white of the rest of her dress, and it kind of matches the lightning a little bit there too. I think it looks really good. So I'm going to give a few minutes for that to dry, because he also did under tunic and that. I'm going to let that dry for a bit, and then we'll come back and do the calligraphy on the scroll, and I'll show you how I do that with micron pens. I think it's going to be really cool. So I will see you in a bit then. Bye. Alright, boys and girls, so now we're going to get into the scroll work with these micron pens. I buy these Pigma micron, different sizes. This one's a .005. And it usually says right on the barrel what it is too. The end cap is the color it is. So we're using a bright red one. We're using this kind of brownish brown color here, and then kind of a reddish brown for some stuff. And this one's only a .05. But the other two are .005. So we're going to use those. And the way I do this is actually really easy, and I use these pens because they're really, really tiny and they leave a good effect on them. We're going to start where the scroll starts, which is actually way back here. Okay. And I'm going to do a little square. And I just realized I'm using one color. I'm going to use bright red for this. Never really done this on camera before, so bear with me. Although I have done this in a few other videos. Now the reason I start with the square is because most medieval manuscripts have an illuminated letter at the start of it, and it doesn't matter what the letter is. You don't really even have to do a letter. You can just do a little squiggle like that. And then I'm going to do a border. Like that. And come back up with the border. And there we go. And that's really all there is to that. Now for the writing, I'm going to use the brown Pigma pen. And again, for the writing, you don't have to go really above and beyond trying to actually write anything for real. You could just do little squiggles. And in this scale, it'll look like writing. Kind of like that. Just try to keep your lines kind of consistent and right like that. Now, what I wanted to use the dark brown for, the reddish brown, is I wanted to have a couple of illustrations on here that kind of look like blood. They look like they were done in blood. Because this is a witchcraft scroll after all, so. I'm going to do a pentagram here. Like that, and then maybe kind of a evil looking little hand. Just like that. Just like that, kind of gross. And then we just fill in the rest with the writing. So I'm going to go ahead and go finish all that, and then we will come back and see how the finished thing looks. All right, see you in a bit. All right, so there we have our finished scroll work. I think it looks pretty good. So we're going to go ahead and call this gal pretty much done. I just need to do the basing, and you've seen me do the basing a dozen times. It's Absolution green on the base, and then Niblet green dry brush on a forest green base band. I'm not going to make you sit through that. You've seen that done a dozen times. So I'm going to go finish her up, and the next time you see this gal, she'll be completely done. All right, see you in a bit. Bye. And there she is, ladies and gentlemen, our finished White Witch, which wraps up the set of Frostgrave Witches box set. I think she turned out really well. I'm really happy with her. And here's all of them together, along with the familiars that we did in the first video. I think the set looks really nice. It really came out looking good. I'm pretty happy with all of them. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Next week we got something a little special planned to wrap this up. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys later. Bye. Hey Brush Monkeys, Tom here. If you like what you see, click like down below, and if you want to be notified when new videos get posted, click subscribe. And in the meantime, if you want to support us in any way, check me out on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. We're on all those platforms. If you see a miniature on the site that you want to make one of your own, hit me up on Instagram. I can quote you a price for that. And if you want any Flying Monkey Studios merchandise, like t-shirts, things like that, hit me up on storefrontier.com/flyingmonkeystudios and get all your merch there. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.